Okay, we will call this regular council meeting to order. It's 3 p.m., July the 8th, and I will ask Councillor Hystad to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Your Worship. Town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge that the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hystad. And we'll move on to 2.1. So today we're going to swear in a new deputy mayor. Just want to thank Councillor Dunham for the last 4 months that he has been in that position. And so I'll ask Councillor Hystad to rise. Left hand, right hand up. Okay, so I, Jason Hystad, do swear that I will diligently, faithfully and to the best of my ability, execute according to law, the office of deputy mayor, for the town of Innisfail, so help me God. Okay, thank you. Champagne. Okay, well, we'll move on to 3.1. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Could I please have someone make a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. Then we will move on to 4.1, the regular council meeting minutes for June 24th. Councillor Bates.
I'll move those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any changes, discussion? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. And 4.2, agenda and priorities meeting for June the 17th, 2024.
I'll move those minutes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceras. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, carried. And we were going to move into our public hearing today. So I'll just give an overview of how the public hearing works. So I will start by declaring the public hearing open, and then the order of the public hearing will be the introduction of the bylaw by administration, so Manager Shaw will do that. Then I will call to hear from anyone in support of the bylaw, and then I will call to hear from anyone in opposition to the bylaw. And just so if anybody in the gallery today is coming forward, the fors and against, you kind of get one shot at it. We don't go back and forth. So just make sure that you kind of are prepared to say what you want to say. So we'll call this public hearing for bylaw 1470A82 open, and I'll welcome Manager Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have an application before you that seeks to rezone a property on 56th Street from residential multifamily district R3 to residential single family district DR1B. So the applicant proposes to construct a single-family residence on this property. It's legally described as Plan 922-2318, Block 10, Lot 17A, and civically described as 5140 56th Street. Landowners prefer a single detached dwelling on their property rather than a multi-unit development. Landowners also circulated a survey and received 11 positive responses to the change of zoning that encompassed 18 individuals. So the reason that we're here is that the land use bylaw does not allow for single family residences within the residential multifamily district or the R3 district. Those dwellings existing at the time that the land use bylaw was adopted were allowed to continue in the R3 district. Previous amendment allows existing single detached dwellings to be rebuilt is substantially destroyed. Redevelopment of this site, however, does not fall under this amendment because there was no dwelling on the property at the time the bylaw was adopted. So with amendments, there is a process that the municipality has to follow with respect to notification. and this is set out in the Municipal Government Act. So the public hearing date notifications were published in the Albertan on June 18th, 25th, and July 2nd. Public hearing date notification and bylaw was listed on the town's website. The public hearing date notification was mailed to landowners in proximity to the subject property, and so we had between 17 and 21 letters directly mailed to landowners in proximity to this property. And landowners and the applicant directly notified via email and mail of the date, time, and place of the public hearing. So with respect to the history of the property, back in '92, this particular plan consolidated lots 16 and 17, block 10, Plan P, with part of block F, Plan P, to create the current property, which is 0.7 of an acre. Current owners purchased the property in '92. Assessment showed that there were 3 single-family dwellings on the property dating to 1940 and 1953 of various sizes. Development and building permits to expand one of the residences was made in '95. Demolition of the dwellings occurred in 2014, and land has remained vacant since the demolition of the dwellings. And now you have before you an application to amend the land use district. So when we look at the aerial photos that are available from several years back, we see that in 2008, there were dwellings on this property as well as other properties to the east of it. In 2013, those properties to the east, the dwellings were removed. However, there were still 3 dwellings on this property at the 2018. And then by 2017, we can see that the dwellings have been removed. So north side of 56th Street has been single detached dwellings for many years. Land use bylaws 1138 and 1138-94 has single detached dwellings as a discretionary use within the R3 district. The land use bylaw 1470, adopted in 2009, identified only existing ones allowed to remain at the date the bylaw was adopted. So no new single detached dwellings on vacant lots are possible under this district. And this is why you have the application before you today. So from an administrative review standpoint, we list here the number of considerations that council should be given when reviewing proposed amendments to the land use bylaw. The goals of the municipal development plan are outlined on the next slide. Policies of the MDP, although detached housing will be the dominant housing type, the town supports the provision of a wide range of housing types in order to meet the housing needs of all its citizens. Higher density housing is encouraged to develop in small clusters with good access to major roads. Consideration should also be given to proximity to schools, open spaces, and community facilities. The 2017 housing discussion paper identified that infill development could be a means to support sustainable community development through the revitalization of neighborhoods and discouraging sprawl. Such development makes use of existing infrastructure and facilities and supports the strength of community centers and walkable neighborhoods. The housing needs assessment that was done last year identified that there was an unmet demand of 31 dwelling units in the form of apartments, rural housing, or movable dwellings. Moreover, by 2031, it was expected that 24 more dwelling units will be required in this typology. Thus, a total of 55 dwelling units will be required by 2031. The report also highlighted that landlords felt there was not enough open units to meet the rental needs of the community. So 2023 and 2024 development approvals for this type of housing has resulted in 14 dwelling units under construction at this time. And we'll just show you the location of those properties and the number of dwelling units on each of them. Your strategic plan, one item was to ensure that affordable housing options are available to those who need them. Land use decisions result in a diversity of housing products being available. The Age-Friendly Community Action Plan 2023-2025 was to encourage affordable and diverse housing options which allow for aging in place, and also a diverse selection of housing options for all residents to age in place. And then also the Housing Action Plan adopted, promote or require demolition, rehabilitation, or redevelopment of vacant and derelict properties, direct facilitation to guide small developers through the redevelopment process for existing infill sites. So as we continue further, based on the size of this property, we are estimating that between 16 to 40 dwelling units could be accommodated on it, thus substantially filling the need for this type of housing in the next 7 years. There are very few vacant parcels that are zoned as R3 in this area of the community that are sufficient size to accommodate multi-unit dwellings. Two parcels to the east of this property could accommodate a multi-unit development. At least one of these parcels could experience a land use amendment application in the future should the zoning for this property be changed to accommodate a single detached dwelling. And again, the community has a very limited number of R3 zone properties that are subdivided and serviced at this time. And so here you can see the table that we have prepared. It shows you the properties that are currently zoned as R3, and you can see that there's a very limited number of them available. So there are subdivided and serviced single-family lots available elsewhere within the community. The Hazelwood subdivision has 2 R2 lots and 8 R1B lots available. Napoleon Meadows has 4 R1B lots available. Bella Vista has a number of lots that are available. And as well, there are 2 vacant R1B lots for sale suitable for a single detached dwelling that back onto Dodds Lake located to the west of the subject property. There's also a single detached dwelling for sale on Cedar Way that backs onto Dodds Lake. So in summary, we have very few parcels in the community that are zoned, subdivided, and serviced as R3 district. The MDP policy promotes the provision of a wide range of housing types. 2000 housing discussion paper identified that infill development could be a means to support sustainable community development through the revitalization of neighborhoods and discouraging sprawl. 2023 housing needs assessment, as I indicated before, identified that there was an unmet demand of 31 dwelling units in the form of apartments, row housing, or movable dwellings. The report also highlighted the fact that landlords felt that there was not enough open units to meet the rental needs of the community. A development approval granted in June by the MPC for the refurbishment of an apartment building at 5119 48th Street. It's unknown when that refurbishment will commence or be completed. And as indicated before, that there are 2 vacant R1B lots located to the west of the subject property that back onto Dodds Lake as available to construct a single detached dwelling. A single detached dwelling backing onto Dodds Lake is for sale on Cedar Way, and we currently have a vacancy rate that is 0% for rentals. That concludes our presentation, Mayor and Council.
Okay. Thank you, Manager Shaw. Does anyone have any questions for Manager Shaw at this time? No? Okay, thank you. I'll now ask if there's anyone who supports this bylaw and wishes to speak, please come forward. Welcome. And I just want to also acknowledge that Councillor Dunham has left council chambers due to pecuniary interests, so he's not part of this discussion. So if you could just state your name and... Address,
I'd like to
please.
thank the mayor and council for hearing me today. My name is Walter Tarnaski. I have applied for that rezoning on that lot. I think basically the way my wife and I look at it, I don't understand all the previous presentation exactly, but from way we look at it, it's just another house in the row there. There's an existing row of homes there. We would just sort of fit right in there. Looking at it from the dimension of the apartment building being there, I think that might be for the folks, the Millers that I'm buying it from, it might be relatively unfair for them. That would would put an apartment building right beside them in that site. That would probably be negative to the value of their home, and the one on the other side. But I think the thing is, I guess there are several fronts there. It is to us a beautiful site, unlike any of the other ones that are available, and it is available kind of. And so we'd like to build our home there, and basically just sort of fit into the community there. I don't know. I have done some development. I'm not sure that it's quite a valuable piece of property. It sort of falls outside of the normal parameters of what a developer might be wanted to purchase for a regular rental unit. That would be for someone else to decide, but it has been vacant for quite some time, and nobody has really taken a shot at it, and so that would be another point, I guess I would say. And then really I just feel like when I drive down the street, it's just all single-family homes right there, right? And it just seems like, it doesn't seem like an extreme extension of what would fit in. The neighbors that we visited and got the submissions from all felt kind of the same way, that it wouldn't be a negative impact on them neither. Probably a little bit more positive. Yeah, I guess that would be where I'm at on that.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No, I don't see any, so thank you so much for speaking today. We appreciate it. Does anybody else want to come forward and speak in favor? Just come on up, and we just ask that you speak into the microphone, because our meetings are recorded, and that's the only way people can hear. So if you can just state your name and address.
My name is Lori Miller, and we live adjacent to 5140 56th Street. And there was an error in the town's submission. We actually purchased that property in 1986, not 1992. We had an addition of a daughter that year, but not that property, okay? So, and we've done our utmost to keep the riparian zone, to honor the birds and the animals, and yeah, the deer and everything that live up there. So the idea that 16 to 40 units could be jammed on a parcel that we have diligently loved is really frightful to us. And we do have a 16-unit apartment across from us currently. It is in the same state of disrepair that has been in the entire 42 years that I have lived on the street. I've seen a few new balconies, and I've seen some tar on the roof, but the building is falling down, the garbage behind it, all the rest of it. The idea that the town would think it would be better to have more people jammed in a small space where there's no accessibility from behind. I have concerns as well as a neighbor that firefighters and stuff, if there was a lot of buildings jammed in there, that would not be in our favor either. And yeah, and the two lots that were mentioned that backed onto Dodds Lake are, I'm just going to say, naked lots, aren't they? They've had fill brought in, they've had stuff scraped away. There are no mature trees or anything. What the people that are asking is they want to buy the nature. And I think this town, when you're promoting pathways and recreation, that another green space is a good space to keep, okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Anyone else would like to come forward? State your name.
I'm Sean Steen. I live in town. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I figured I would go outside my comfort zone and speak on behalf of Walter and Lori Miller. I feel like this would be a very positive process or positive experience for the town to allow this rezoning. It'll not only bring a new family into town, it could potentially bring in other families as well. Walter and his family are quite well known, and I feel like it would be a very positive thing for the community. As well, he is here before you now to have that rezoning completed, and there isn't anybody else out there looking to build or have anything on the property. So yeah, potential for the town to have a new family come into town and new development. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sean, for speaking today. Anyone else want to come forward? No, if not, then I will ask if there's anyone that opposes this bylaw that wishes to speak. There is not. Are there any further comments from administration?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I would ask you that when you're making your consideration in terms of what was presented to you today, that you look at the considerations that are given in the MPC when it relates to amending the land use bylaw as to whether or not this is the best use of the land available at this time. And so many observations. Yes, we don't have that opportunity to redevelop our free property because of the way that the land use bylaw, that district is written. This area has a history of single-family residential on the north side of 56. However, it was and has been zoned as R3 for quite a number of years back, even with the even before the current land use bylaw. So, you know, we would ask council to give consideration to what the MDP has outlined when it looks at amendments for the land use bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Manager Shaw. Council have any questions? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask these questions, or are we going to deliberate a little later in the agenda? So I just need to know when I can pose these questions to.
Well, under 9.1 is when we'll be deciding on second and third readings for the bylaw.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but you're welcome to pose a question now, if you like.
I will. I will. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I guess we've just recently, or fairly recently, approved a subdivision on the north side of Dodds Lake for a 100-unit townhouse duplex. Just refresh my memory. What is the zoning there? I don't see that on my zoning map here on my desk. It's
And so, Mayor and Council, the zoning for that area is R4, which is a high-density residential. That was a new district that was brought in to accommodate that proposed development.
So, may I supplementary? If it's 100 unit, we talk about 40 units here, and maybe an unfair question, but this is these people's property that for one house, like, I don't want to get into the detail of sales and things, but I look at my development map here and I see R4 on the North Shore. I see an R3 up here, on the north side of Hazelwood. So, when we talk about the number of units that we're lacking and that we need availability, it's hard for me to see that one piece of property is going to make a difference. Just a comment. Thank you.
So Manager Shaw, property's been privately owned since '86 apparently. Like, how would, I'm struggling with forcing a landowner to develop an apartment building when, when they bought it, it was single family, and there was a bylaw change, I think it was in 14. How do you force somebody to say, oh, well, you can't do anything with it other than build? They would have to sell it, and then you'd have to have a developer that wants to develop that. So I'm curious how that would play out, I guess.
And so, Mayor and Council, no one is forcing the landowner to develop the property. That's why we're having this land use amendment today. That's why you're considering this land use amendment today, as to whether or not it would be better suited as a single detached dwelling or as a multi-unit. Administration is reporting to you from the standpoint, this is what your planning and development framework provides for. And so, as you're rightly aware, that the land has not been developed, it's remained vacant since 2014. And the R3 district does not allow for the construction of single detached dwellings, and that's why we're here today, to rezone the property to a district that would allow for a single detached dwelling.
Yeah, I guess my point is that nobody's is building on it as it is, I guess is what I'm saying. So anyway, no, I appreciate the information. You've prepared a great report today, and thank you for that. Is there any further questions? I'm seeing none. So I will accept a motion to close this public hearing at this time. Councillor Wing?
Mayor Barclay, I would move to close the public hearing.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. So we'll move on to the rest of our agenda now, and we will, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, oh yeah, we're missing one of our people. Sorry, almost forgot to bring you back. So we'll move on to the rest of the agenda now. 6.1, and just so that the people in the gallery know that this will come up later in the agenda about the bylaw change. So we'll move into 6.1 with our CAO report.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. The report is there for council's consideration. I won't really go into any area unless you have further questions or any questions on the report or anything else to do with operations and administration. I think there was an item presented or queried to me prior to the meeting regarding the cemetery. There's been some recent discussion regarding the cemetery and the standard of some of the plantings and so forth. I wouldn't mind just putting it over to the Director of Corporate Services just to maybe introduce the topic, Director, and some of the pieces of the bylaw that associate with maintaining a standard.
Yes, thank you. Mayor and Council, a few months ago, internally, we did have some conversations about the cemetery and how our Parks Department wanted to do some upkeep around the cemetery and around all the plots. Through that, we did refer to our cemetery bylaw, and it does indicate in our bylaw that no items are supposed to be on the ground around the monument. Any items must be affixed to the monument permanently if they are to remain in the cemetery. About 2 months ago, we did start putting out some advertising in the paper and through social media that we would be doing a cleanup of the cemetery in order to let our Summer Parks employees do their job. Our Parks team took every item, they tagged and taped every item with the name of the monument and placed them in a bin for the public to come and collect. And unfortunately, this past weekend, we did have some comments out on Facebook regarding what had happened at the cemetery. That post has now since been taken down, and we've had no calls or people enter the building today, but we will monitor through this week and the next couple of weeks and see how it goes.
Thank you, Director Bickers, and I know there was a lot of public communication about this, and certainly the bylaw addresses it, so thank you for that. And anything else, CEO Becker? And I just want to, well, I'm always wanting to point out the good things that are happening here in the part in your report that the engagement survey results, so the cultural assessment, I guess, of the organization, and that 90% score that the organization received, and I think that's just fantastic. So I guess we'll give you a good job, CEO Becker, and team, senior leadership team.
Mayor Barkley, can I just ask one question, please?
Of course.
Just regarding the cemetery, and of course, the post on social media that I saw as well with the picture. So my question is, in the picture, there were a number of the markers that are put on sites, I believe by the funeral home with the name and whatever. Were they all arbitrarily removed, or just the ones removed that had then headstones placed or at the site? So do we have a bunch of unmarked graves now that people don't know where to find people?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councilor Wing, that unfortunately is a question that I do not know the answer to, so I will get that answer and send that out to you.
Thank you, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, just have somebody make a motion, please, to accept the CEO report as presented. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I would like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move into council action control. If there's no questions about anything, I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept this as information. Councillor Bates?
Sure, I'll move that we accept it as information, and then I do have, and I probably just missed it in the council, in the CAO's report. There was some mention made there of us in our water strategies shifting priority more to a conservation plan from a drought management, and we kind of glossed over that. Being on the commission and watching the progress of that, I agree with that. Excuse me. I don't see as much specific concern about drought at this point, and I think we should start to adjust our thoughts to conservation and keeping drought in the background. That, yeah, it can come back at any time, and whatever we do with conservation will probably help with the drought too. So I just wanted to endorse that statement that was buried in there, and I don't know if we want to put that notation in the resolution action control, because there's numerous ones in there about drought.
So just, Mayor Barkley, to Councillor Bates's comments, so as within the CAO report, as a result of the Alberta Munis Municipal Leadership Caucus, where the consultant that has conducted some work with AB Munis, they're updating some of their targets, and they develop kind of like toolkits for different initiatives. One, they've developed this, I think the last one was 2014 or 2019. Now they're updating this conservation plan for water in 2024. And some of you councillor members were in attendance for that discussion. This morning we met as senior leadership team and talked about that report and the presentation, and the idea of council perhaps wants to rejig the drought plan or the directive to more water conservation based on your comments, Councillor Bates, that we're not in a drought position now, from my own judgment and opinion, that maybe still being stewards of environmental stewards, to still have an awareness of the water now and moving forward. And certainly as a priority, it did help us create some conversation administratively back to you. But I think now is a good time, but we'd like to come back to with new priorities probably in August. But just introduce this conversation with you, and if you'd like to make it a priority to kind of bring back more formal discussion, just that directive would be good.
Councillor Bates?
So I would be prepared to make that directive as a motion that you, I'm sorry, that, oh, right, we have to finish that one.
Yeah, so we have a motion for the council action control, so everybody in favor of accepting that as information? All in favor? And then Councillor Bates?
Sure, so I guess I would move that we direct administration to bring back the discussion, if you will, more from a conservation lens about what we're working on with water. And keep in mind, the commission will still be coming back later with some plans, but I do see other communities moving ahead, so I would move that we ask admin to bring that back in that fashion. Thank you.
Okay, so question I have, don't know when it was now, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, the information that I believe Director Vickers brought forward on the low flow shower heads and all that kind of stuff, was that under the umbrella of the conservation plan? The grasses, the flowers, the...
Yes, Mayor Barkley, it was intended to be a water conservation, a way to encourage our residents to conserve water in alternate ways, yes.
And then a while ago, back when there were drought issues, we were talking about like the level, the stage 1 through 4, 1 through 5. Is that under water conservation as well? That was a while ago now, but Councillor Bates?
Well, from my perspective, the conservation could have levels. And we haven't gotten there yet. The commission hasn't gotten there yet, but there's no reason why the town couldn't address conservation in a level form.
But we're developing that, correct? Or, sorry, it's been a while since we kind of delved into that, but.
Yeah, the drought plan is still a priority. It's still in discussion with the technical review committee, with the water commission. That has not ceased. I do believe there is application between the drought and conservation that will tie over quite nicely. I think the idea is to kind of formulate conservation. There's targets set, maybe there's application of the AM toolkit, but certainly would put it back to administration to kind of review. And in our preliminary discussions, we're pretty good on some of the work we've been doing for the last several years. But it just creates awareness and understanding at your level as governance, but also back into the community.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're kind of already doing it and have been for many years. So,
Yeah.
Councillor Wing?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, just my memory of the conversation as well was that absolutely focusing on conservation, but I believe somewhere in that conservation discussion should always be noted the fact that what we've discovered is water is not the renewable resource that we once thought it was. So we shouldn't necessarily be jumping into emergency mode when we are having a drought situation. We have done a lot of work relative to drought in the past months, and it would be a shame to just sort of put that on the shelf and forget about it. So if we can include that somewhere within our conservation documents, that would be great.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councillor Bates. All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. And we will move into 6.3, and I'll invite Manager Leith to come forward, talk about a community peace officer collaboration with the town of Penhold.
Your Worship, Council. So the town of Innisfil Protective Services continues to see an increase in calls for service. The last 3 years we've employed a summer bylaw officer to support this increase. The opportunity to collaborate with the town of Penhold provides an opportunity to transition to a full-time employee community peace officer for the town of Innisfil with cost sharing for up to the first 18 months. The position initially will be a 50-50 split for the duration of the agreement and will be prorated for the months of services. Challenges in enforcement, complaints received in the vehicles are, oh, sorry, that's a typo. Yeah, sorry, that's it. Budget impact, the use of a multi-year phased approach will reduce the financial impacts and will deliver an FTE support to the town of Innisfil Protective Services while providing intermunicipal collaboration with a neighbouring municipality. So the spreadsheet there just basically shows the town of Innisfil, Penhold, if we were to take 6 months, would contribute $25,000 plus $5,000 towards equipment. An expectation of the officer would write approximately $5,000 worth of tickets for the town of Penhold. An expectation with $15,000 worth of tickets written for the town of Innisfil. The expenses or the outgoings, the monitoring for Lacombe Police Services is a 6-monthly contract, which would be $2,500. Additional camera, uniform and PPE, etc. would be offset. So obviously, overall, the FTE would be looking at $40,000 for this year, reduced by next year because those initial outgoings would be met up front in 2024 to $36,500, and then the following year likely to be fully back into an Innisfil FTE.
Okay, thank you, Manager Leith. Just a question that the monitoring by Lacombe Police Service, can you explain that?
So currently our peace officers are monitored by Lacombe Police Service. They basically do what they would refer to their 70 checks, so safety checks. If they pull over a vehicle, they'll give them a 5-minute timer, 10-minute timer. If there's an engagement with the public, they will follow up with the officer to make sure that they are free again from that engagement. If the officer fails to return the call, they will either contact me or another duty officer. If they fail to contact anybody else, they would contact RCMP. They also have GIS ability within their vehicles, so they track where the officer is at any point in time, and therefore can direct resources to them if required.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No, and I guess you'll work out the scheduling as you move forward, and like, do you think it would be set days here and set days there, or would that flip back and forth, or?
Your Worship, currently the expectation is we would adjust our current schedule, so we would have an early shift starting at 6 a.m., a daytime shift, which is the normal 8 to 5 o'clock, and then a later shift, which would be 11 till 8 o'clock. So that gives us an additional 20 hours contact, even in the winter, within our municipality. And then the shared position within Penhold would be 2 days one week, 3 days the next week, just to fit in with our current pay scale.
Okay, any additional weekend time?
Yeah, it would allow us to cover pretty much every weekend with one officer, either that being a Saturday or Sunday.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, my question would be with the model shown here, the ticket revenue, can you give us an estimate of what that revenue is versus all of our revenue? Like for, say, 2024, if it was annualized, and 2025 and 2026, is that a third, or is it?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Bates. So currently there's an expectation of revenue for our current peace officers. Penhold, in the initial talks and even later, have put no expectation on what that target would look like. Currently, our tickets written last year were in the region of $120,000 with 2 officers. However, the cost recovery on that varies, and I think Director Vickers can speak to that, is the courts themselves sometimes will write off through community service and other things, so we don't actually see that $120,000, we see a portion of it. But this report was written on the basis of the expectation is the officer would write a minimum of $40,000 worth of tickets per year. 2076 increasing because of basically a COLA expectation.
That's an adequate answer for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Heisted?
Recommended motion that council recommend the administration enter into an agreement with the town of Penhold and shared community peace officer services.
Any further questions? No? All in favor? Okay, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move into 7.1 and Southwest Industrial Park with Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So just to provide council an update on the solar farm application and project. So back in February this year, we started our application process with the AUC. Since then, we have provided 2 responses back to AUC for clarifications and for additional information. After that, the project itself has been on hold with the AOC, requesting particularly 3 items: clarification on the type of land and reclamation requirements. So with that, we are working with WSP to provide information on the existing monitoring program, as well as a methodology to accommodate the new project once it's in place. So they're just wanting clarification on that. They're wanting some clarification on the reclamation costs to be completed by a consulting firm, as well clarification in regards to Section 95 of the Electrical Utilities Act. We actually met with the minister this morning in regards to assigning an independent assessor as part of the application process. We are under the request to get a ministerial order. So that process started today. We had a really good meeting. We have engaged an accounting firm to satisfy those requirements, and that is a 30-day working day period time. So we found out today. So that's probably 2 months in the works now to get that process done. So in the meantime, everything has been put on hold until we get that resolved and finalized. So that's just a quick update. As well, I guess it does move our construction. We were hoping to get construction this year, but this does move it into next year.
Okay. A little red tape reduction might help, right? Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barkley, I move that council accepts the Southwest Industrial Park Solar Farm Development Report as information.
Thank you. So Director Kennedy, the meeting this morning, positive in the sense, like, do you see this potentially moving up now or no? Time frame, moving forward a little bit or not so much?
Well, what it did today was it set the time frame. So
Okay.
they now have from the execution of the agreement, which would hopefully happen here in a week or 2.
Okay.
They have a set 30-day working day time frame that they have to meet. So that does set that date and put a time frame into it. So
And
it
then-
can't go any longer.
And then it goes back to the ministry?
Then their recommendation goes back to the ministry. Typically, from my understanding, is they follow that recommendation. So the ministry really takes that, whatever resolution is, and then that's what they apply.
Okay, right, thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Kennedy. Do you foresee any more conditions coming up and being placed as you work through the 30-day?
Councilor Harrison, so we won't have anything new come up because the project has put on hold. Other than the 2 additional items here, we're optimistic that nothing new will come up, but I guess until we finalize the process, it's hard to say for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the report as information. All in favor? All right, carried. And next, we will go into 8.1 with Director Vickers on 2025 budget discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So the purpose of this report is just to provide some dialogue with council regarding the 2025 budget, but specifically how it relates to public participation and just kind of that initial budget schedule. So budget 2025 is well underway with administration and our teams. However, we do have a new budget policy this year. So our budget policy 2023-008 was passed last October. It was too close to get into last year's budget. So this is kind of the first budget cycle that we're utilizing that budget policy. So an excerpt right from the policy states, Council is committed to ensuring a high level of transparency and accountability to the citizens of Innisfil. Citizen engagement into the budget process will be encouraged and transparency will be maintained. So after that, administration did go and do a review of our public participation policy, 2018-001, and that outlines the level of public participation at each step of increasing public impact. Each of the public participation activities will be in accordance with the International Association of Public Participation's Public Participation Spectrum, so IAP2. As this is our first year, first kind of wager into that public participation, administration is recommending completing a budget survey for our residents in 2025. This would fall under the consult heading of our public participation policy. This consult heading has a goal of obtaining public feedback on analysis, alternative or decisions, with a promise to the public of keeping them informed, listening to and acknowledging their concerns and aspirations, and provide feedback on how public input influence the decision. We are currently in the process of researching other municipal budget surveys and generating a list of questions. So currently we've reached out to Black Falls, Olds, Okotoks, and Lacombe to review their budget surveys. We've been talking with our communications team. They will create the budget survey based on the questions provided to them, and they have recommended to have the survey term of 3 to 4 weeks. They have proposed a release date of August 1st, and will keep it open for the month of August. Each year, the town does set aside 3 full days to discuss the following year's proposed budget. Typically, these deliberations occur the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of that 3rd week in November. For 2024, this would be November 19th to 21st. We're not asking you guys to set those days today. I'll bring a report likely in September, asking you guys to confirm those dates then. But this is kind of our initial budget schedule is below here. So the budget survey released on August 1st, with being closed on August 31st. Within those timeframes, administration will be doing all of our internal workings, all of our meetings, and getting everything prepared for council. Budget binders are to be completed for council by November 15th, with anticipated budget deliberations of the 18th to the 20th. Administration will take November 25th to December 5th to implement all the changes discussed through budget deliberations, with the proposed budget passing of December 9th.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Thanks to Director Vickers. That I'm really happy with the consultation piece, but I do have a question. Will council see a draft of the survey before it's actually released to the public?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Wing, that is not something that we have discussed, so I would defer to CAO Becker. We can, okay, thank you. I was going to say we would discuss it later, but if you're willing
No,
to.
if it's council's desire to see it and to know what kind of questions are being posed, that's certainly, just let us know. That's your desire.
I think given that it's the first time we've done a survey of any kind like this, I think I would just be helpful. I mean, even not to see the specific questions, but the headings or the way it's organized, or just a better feel for what that process will look like would be helpful for me. Thank you.
Councillor Hystad?
Your Worship, I would agree with Councillor Wing on with her comments on the consultation piece, but also I thought what we did last year went really well. I thought it was a small group that we presented to, but the senior setting was a really good opportunity for us to get out as administration and council to present. The only recommendation, I don't want to go, down a rabbit hole. I think it'd be really cool for us to videotape some type of, like if we present our budget, we have some type of video where people can view it if they want to. And it gives them that, that transparency piece that will, which I believe that we're doing currently, but it enhances that. So thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting. I mean, certainly don't oppose this. My concern is it's a lot, right? To fully understand the budget. So, if we're explaining 43% decline in provincial funding in since 2011, and we're explaining that 2 blocks of infrastructure is $900,000 to replace. I guess what concerns me is that wastewater is not very exciting, so let's not do that. But sorry, Director Kennedy. But and we're going to get responses will be all over the place, and I just want to make sure that the public knows this is part of the process, but ultimately the decision makers are, well, you and us. I mean, we're the decision makers, but you're the ones that are the experts in presenting the information to us, and I wouldn't even mind being able to do like kind of a public open house even in September or late August or something, where not necessarily a formal sit-down presentation, but maybe have some boards up. Oh, you want to spend $1 million on this, okay, 1% property taxes is $93,000. That equates, so if you want to do $1 million on this, where do you want to take it from? Because otherwise it's, we all have our wants, but the reality is, so I find so often we do these public engagements and you sit there and it's, well, I want this, and I want this, and you're going, well, where's that going to come from? But we don't want our property taxes to go up. So I think, and it's hard for people to understand, right? Like, because they don't see the budget, and it's $27-30 million budget. It's not necessarily easy to understand, or we don't see that operational costs are $1.2 million on the pool and the arena every year. That I mean, that's an expense that taxpayers are supporting. So that's my ramble. It was kind of a ramble, I know, but. Lots of detail, I think, is needed, and I think Town of Sylvan Lake Director Vickers, I know they've been doing this for maybe 3 or 4 years now, and I know that they do some open houses and they actually have some boards up, and I don't know whether you can even make an online calculator. Maybe that's getting too far advanced, but you know, oh, you just picked a multiplex for $100 million. Here's what that looks like, and here's what the borrowing looks like on 20 million, and so it's complex, right? Yeah.
I'll definitely, Mayor Barkley, I'll definitely have my team reach out to Sylvan Lake too to see what they're doing and what they'd be willing to share with us, of course.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I know one time taking some IAP2 training, you know, the big message was the public process is part of the process, but just a part of it, so the decisions need to come here from recommendations from the experts.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
absolutely.
Of course, we want transparency, always. Okay, so I'm just going to ask for a motion to accept this as information. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council accepts this report as information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thanks. Okay, so we will now move into 9.1 and second and third readings for Bylaw 1470A82, and Councillor Dunham is recusing himself again. Thank you, Councillor Dunham. I'll just ask Manager Shaw to present this. Thank you.
And good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So this is the follow-up report to our presentation and consideration of 2 motions before you. So you have established a public hearing date, which we have held today. And just going briefly through the report, if you just want to go to figure 2, which is on page, that's the subject property there. So you can see in this figure that the area is predominantly R3. There's also R1B, R2, and the direct control district. So you have a variety of different land uses in this general area. Can you go to the next page? So with Bylaw 1138, so you can see that the subject area was zoned as R3 at that time. Subsequently to that, you had a Bylaw 1138/94, where again you see R3 predominating in this general area. And then consequently to that, you have the current bylaw, the 1470, which at that time decided that they would not include single detached dwellings as a discretionary use. These 2 previous bylaws had single detached dwellings as discretionary uses. And so this is why you have some of these properties developed as single family. Some of them obviously predate the land use bylaw itself. So the R3 district does lend itself to various forms of land tenure, as you see here under permitted and discretionary uses. And under that discretionary use clause, you see that detached dwellings existing as of the date this bylaw is adopted. And of course, that was adopted back in 2009. And so subsequent to that, last year we had an amending bylaw that dealt with providing the possibility of single detached dwellings and duplexes located within the R3 district being able to be rebuilt in order to accommodate that investment within those properties. So we go through the history of the property, and again, just highlighting the comments that we made previously. We do understand that property owners do want to develop the property in the way that they so desire. This property has been vacant since the single detached dwellings were removed back in 2014. Historically, the north side of 56 has been single-family dwellings, but the area is zoned as R3, and we are definitely in need of having subdivided and service R3 lots. And so looking at it from an administrative standpoint, the use of spot zoning is generally not considered favorable. And we believe that this is what this represents is spot zoning to be able to facilitate the development of a single detached dwelling on this property where it is currently not possible. So you have before you two recommended motions for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you, Manager Shaw. Could I please have someone read the first recommended motion? Councillor Wing?
Thank you. I'll read it, and then I have a question, if that's okay. Okay, I would move that council does not grant second reading to bylaw 1470-A82, being a bylaw to amend the land use zoning of a parcel legally described as Plan 9222318, Block 10, Lot 17A, and civically described as 5140 56th Street from residential multifamily district R3 to residential single-family district R1B. And my question through to Manager Shaw is, because this particular lot because there is discretionary use for this zoning, this particular lot, there still can be a development permit and sent to MPC, who then has the ability to approve this?
Through the mayor to Councillor Wing, apartments are considered a permitted use within the R3 district. Therefore, it has the authority of the development officer if there are no variances to the land use bylaw setback or requirements.
But for a single-family dwelling, which is a discretionary use according to this, then they can just take it to MPC?
Mayor and council, it would only be for those dwellings that existed at the time that the 2009 land use bylaw was adopted. So it would not have the opportunity to be able to go to MPC for a discretionary use because it's not recognized as a discretionary use.
Okay, so then, just to be clear, this motion then removes the ability of the landowners to build their home on their lot?
This motion, we are requesting that it be status quo in terms of it being recognized as R3 and not being changed to R1B.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Hystad?
No, I respect Manager Shaw in the position that he's in. I do value that area and that street and that culture. I think it's a culture, not only culture, but it's a beautiful spot, and I do believe it's a single-use residential in my mind. I understand when a homeowner is speaking about some of the development across the street. I've been here since '86 as well, and I would agree with some of those comments, but I'm not in agreement. I do not agree with this, this motion itself. So I'm just going to be straight with that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Bates?
So actually, when the discussion occurred earlier, I too am conflicted with the what's there versus what R3 is. And then again, I also look at the evolution. So none of us were here when that R3, I think, was designated. And I think Councillor Harrison made mention on the north side, we have the row housing. We also have another development, which I don't know how else to refer to it except the Carrot development, because he came in and made his specific request, and that's 12 more units, I believe. So I'm conflicted and struggling with preventing that single family from being there. Yeah, that's my comments. I do have one question. If I look at figure 4, all of that area behind labeled as F, is that riparian?
And so, through the chair to Councillor Bates, this map that you see here represents the current legal descriptions that were available at the time that the bylaw was adopted back in 94. So there have been some changes to it since that time.
But is that label, is the shoreline, that upper line of that area with F, or is it somewhere in between, or is it, like, we've got straight lines drawn at the back of the lots, so those are survey, I assume.
So the lake shore itself would represent the surveyed portion, and then you see the heavy bold lines, which would represent the individual land use districts.
I think I got it. Thank you.
Okay, Manager Shaw, thank you for the report and all the work you put into this, but I as well don't support the motion. And the reason I say this, I've had people actually approach me and say to me that, you know, there's people looking for these kind of lots, and I know, you know, it's kind of at the other end. We talk so much about affordable housing, but we also have to realize there's people that aren't necessarily looking for that affordable housing piece, and they're the multi-family that they are looking for lots like this, which is a gem and almost impossible to find anymore, and not everybody wants to live in the new neighborhood on a smaller lot and no trees and stuff. So I would like to see this be an R1 and not an R3, and let the person that wants to buy this build their home. And I think it fits well into the community, and I think there's other multifamily options that we have in this community right now. And going forward, there will be some. I mean, I understand, you know, we're talking rental versus maybe a property on the north side, which is not rental. It would be privately owned, but I'm not supporting the motion. So. Oh, sorry, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. You heard my comments previously and the questions that I had, and I too do not support the motion at all.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion not to grant second reading. So is there anybody in favor of that? It's a little bit backwards, like it's kind of a double negative, right? You have to think about it.
Hold your hands.
Yeah, that's right. And who opposes the motion? All right, unanimous. Now what do we do? Is that done? Done.
So, Mayor and Council, what you would now have to do is to, I guess, basically take out the word does not grant or does not from the existing motion and craft a new motion which reflects that council grants second reading,
Okay.
et cetera.
Okay, like everything's the same except for that. So we'll have somebody make the motion that council grants second reading. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd like to move that council grants second reading to bylaw 1470-A82, being a bylaw to amend the land use zoning of a parcel legally described as Plan 9222318, Block 10, Lot 17A, and civically described as 5140-56th Street, from residential multifamily district R3 to residential single-family district R1B.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any more comments? All in favor? Okay, unanimous, and we'll move consideration for third, no, we just move to third reading, that's correct. Councillor Bates.
So I'll try to replicate the previous motion. I move
take
that
over.
council does grant third reading to bylaw 1470-A82, being a bylaw to amend the land use zoning of a parcel legally described as Plan 9222318, Block 10, Lot 17A, and civically described as 5140 56th Street, from residential multifamily district R3 to residential single-family district R1B.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and council,
Yes, sorry.
procedurally, what you should do is to read the existing motion, vote on that motion, and then create a new motion is my understanding of legislative processes.
But second was defeated. Second reading was defeated.
The second, to not grant, second reading was defeated. Then there's a motion made by Councillor Mazeros to go into second reading for the amendment from R1-3 to R1. And now the mayor's asking for third reading. What step are,
Okay, fine, go ahead and
Good?
yep.
Okay, motion is made. Okay, all in favor? All right, carry unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will move into 9.2, the arena sound system. I'd like to welcome Facility Manager Trish with us today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So I will be presenting the report, and I have Manager Siren here to answer any of the technical questions that council may have. So this report is to request the award of the arena sound system. So the sound system at the Twin Arenas has been identified through building condition assessments and general observation to need replacement. The system will be replaced with modern components with Bluetooth capabilities. The new audio system for each arena will consist of multiple speakers in various locations to provide optimum sound levels, both on, over the ice, and the bleachers. And one of the documents later, and we'll go through it in a minute, actually shows where all of the different speakers are in each of the facilities. Each timekeeper's booth and the announcer's booth on the second floor will be equipped with a Bluetooth receiver, as well as microphone capabilities to allow users to play music, as well as make any announcements. New speakers will be added to the change rooms, and system will be connected to existing lobby speakers to allow for full facility announcements and paging if required. Audio controls will be programmed and set to achieve optimum sound and clarity in all areas. Controls for power will be located in the office area in a secure cabinet. All existing equipment will be removed to leave a clean and professional look for years to come. If anyone's been in the Gary Harris building, we are getting a similar sound system to what they have there. So a request for proposal was issued on the Alberta Purchasing Connection, or APC. and closed on June 19th. We received 5 submissions. We did reach out to Comtech Consulting and Design. They are acoustics, audio video control system. So they are an engineering firm that we did hire to compare the submissions. We wanted to make sure that we were comparing apples to apples and that the specs that we provided were the ones that they were responding on. And they'll also be guiding us through this whole process to make sure that we're doing the right thing with the audiovisual contractor. So the proposals were scored. So this Comtech consulting firm, they did help us score each of the proposals. And they were scored based on price, equipment quality, timeline, warranty, and experience. So the 5 are ranked there. Inland AV has been chosen as the contractor based on the selected criteria, and a phone interview was later conducted with them to confirm their product price and timeline as they indicate ahead of the project deadline. All items have been confirmed with Inland, and on the recommendation of Comtech Consulting and Design, the decision was made to proceed with Inland AV. So they are coming in at a net cost of $95,510.50. It's well within the budget of $125,000. It is to be funded from the Arena Reserve. So I just want to give you a bit of timelines on the ordering. So if it is passed today, we'll let them know immediately tomorrow. They'll have the order placed by Monday. They will, the ice plant starts on the blue side September 3rd and 4th, and they'll be finished their install by the 6th of September if we're able to get it ordered by next Monday. So any further pushbacks from that will push it back for the user. So right now we're right on the timeline to get it in for this winter season.
All right, thank you, Director Vickers. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Wing?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council approves the installation of new sound system in the arena by Inland AV for the total price of $95,510.50 to be funded from the Arena Reserve.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, the only question I have is just the technical, the way it works. So the 2 arenas would be independent of each other, and then someone could, though, override and cover it all. Is that?
Yeah, so the way it'll work is we'll have controls in the office just like we do now. So we'll be able to control which arena has power and then override all areas. So if we had an evacuation that we had to do, we could announce that from the office area and it would reach all areas of the building. Okay. So currently right now we don't have speakers in any of the dress rooms or the ref room. So it's an add-on to that area just for that safety component.
No, and the other thing I think happened previously was if you did want to announce both sides, somebody had to push a magic button up in the I'll call it the eagle's nest for last.
Buttons will be clearly labeled.
So, yeah, and it would, if you go to that instance where you have to do a building wide, that would be within the control of the arena staff.
Yes, so if you wanted to make an announcement to the entire building, you would have to go to the arena attendant, and the attendant would have to make that announcement.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hystad?
Your Worship, to Manager Sarin, a couple questions. Well, the question is, I hope, we have a lot of volunteers. I hope there's an opportunity for them, like a how-to YouTube video, those things.
Absolutely. So what'll happen once it's installed is Comtech, who we've hired to kind of guide us through the process, will assist us with training us on how to do it, and then we can bring in those individual volunteers and train them.
Yeah, and the only reason why I say that is sometimes it's easier, like if they have they can scan and see a video, and because those, I believe those systems take a beating. And I was at the arena on the weekend at the Mavericks game, and I think it's worse during the summer than it is during the hockey season. So, no, this is a welcomed addition. Thank you.
Thank you. First the sound system, then the building, right? Gary Harris? No, just kidding.
Similar.
All right, so we have a motion for the installation of the new sound system. All in favor? All right, carried unanimous. Thank you. We'll move into correspondence and information. Number 4, the door prize thing. Maybe we'll talk about this later. We'll maybe get Juanita to reach out to see how that's proceeding. It said the first week of July, but that's kind of come and gone, so see where things are at. Just have somebody make a motion, please. Accept the correspondence as information. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd so move.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
I have a
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Bates.
I just wanted to bring up again that I see the Mountain View Annual Golf Tournament, and again, it's not a tournament, it's a get-together of the various municipalities, and I think last year we sent a couple of staff, and it's very appropriate to do that. I'll probably go, just because I'm on the commission, but I think it's good if we do get a couple of staff to go there and interact with the staff from the other municipalities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hystad?
Do you need a motion for that, to send a couple staff?
No.
I just wanted to bring it to light. I think admin will take care of that.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the correspondence as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll go to council reports, and we'll begin with Councillor Maceros today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last week, I attended the Summer Leadership Caucus and the Cape AGM, although not as a council person, but always wearing both hats, and the Canada Day celebrations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. On June 25th, I attended the Fortis Alberta visit. 27th, I was at the Municipal Summer Leaders Caucus as well, and on July 3rd, I attended the RCMP Town Hall.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, my report's before you. The only comment that I would make, I want to congratulate the Mavericks lacrosse team for making the playoffs, and it was a fun game to see this weekend. So I move my report.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to council and delegation. Two things. Attended the Canada Day breakfast, and the pancakes and the coffee were excellent. A good turnout, and I think everyone enjoyed themselves. Just a comment, we've got family here from Ontario, Southern Ontario. They've been here with us for a week, and I'm so proud of our community that I've had them out every day somewhere showing them what we have for amenities. And my wife's cousin's husband is the director of corporate services in a town called Harrow, and nothing but compliments on what Innisfil has and where we're headed. So I just want to pass that along with some of the negative stuff that comes across on social media. Take it for a grain of salt. Here's a guy that works with it every day, and he was very, very complimentary of what we're doing in Innisfil, and so I just thought I'd pass that along direct to CAO Becker and make sure your staff get that word. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Harrison. And Councillor Bates?
Yeah, so I struggled with my written report this week. I actually confess that I hadn't submitted it until I got the agenda, and then I've tried to submit it 3 times, but I think I've got it figured out, and we'll have it fixed for next time. So it would have said, and if you read the one that was there, it was the previous one, that I had attended Fortis, the Muni Social, the actual Muni Day, the 2 Canada Day, Innisfail on the 30th, and the Village on the 1st, and the RCMP Town Hall.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, like my colleagues, I attended the Fortis tour. That was very informative. the summer leaders, both social and the caucus meetings, as well as the RCMP town hall.
Right, thank you. And my report's there. I'll also echo the comments from Councillor Harrison. Have had so many people the last 2 to 3 weeks say how great the town looks. So thank you to the staff, operations, for keeping everything looking so neat and tidy, and it looks fantastic everywhere you go. So thank you. And again, please pass that on to the rest of the staff, because you're right, sometimes a lot of bullets fly and there's not enough bouquets. So, and we'll move into upcoming events. I'll just have somebody please make a motion to accept these as information. Councillor Harrison.
Before I make the motion, I'd just like to, I did forget one thing. We have set the terms of reference, the survey questions for RD Mug. They're out, they'll be compiled. We've hired the consultant, and it is Strategic Steps, Ian McCormick and his team. And the big membership meeting will be on July the 18th at a spot somewhere in Red Deer. Our executive director is working on that location, so that process is well underway. So any comments back from that, please get a hold of me. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And now I'll make the motion that we accept.
All right, thank you.
For information.
Perfect, thanks. All in favor? All right, carried. And we will adjourn at 4:25. So thanks, everybody. Have a good day.